You've probably heard of the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your income goes to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings. It sounds perfect, right? Simple, clean, easy to follow. But here's the problem. For most people, it doesn't work. And not because they're doing it wrong, but because the rule itself is fundamentally broken. So if you've been trying to follow it and feeling like you're failing, you're not. The system failed you, and today I'm going to show you what to do instead. So here's what we're covering in this video. We're going to break down exactly why the 50-30-20 rule doesn't work for the majority of people in today's economy. Then, I'm going to walk you through a better framework, one that's flexible, realistic, and actually designed for how people live and earn money now. Not in some theoretical world where rent is affordable and salaries keep up with inflation and stick around. The 50-30-20 rule was popularized by Senator Elizabeth Warren in her book, All You're Worth, and at the time, it made sense. But that was 2005. Nearly 20 years ago. The economy has changed. Housing costs have skyrocketed. Student loan debt has exploded. Wages have stagnated. And yet, we're still being told to follow a rule that was designed for a completely different financial landscape. So it's no wonder people are struggling. All right, let's start with why the 50-30-20 rule is broken. The biggest issue is the 50% allocated to needs. In theory, needs are things like rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, the essentials. But here's the reality. For most people, especially in cities, needs alone eat up way more than 50% of their income. According to recent data, the average American spends about 35% of their income just on housing, and transportation, food, insurance, and debt payments, and you're easily at 60, 70, sometimes 80% of your income. So right off the bat, the math doesn't work. And it's not because people are overspending, it's because the cost of living has outpaced income growth. In the 1970s, you could buy a house for 2 to 3 times your annual salary. Today, it's 6 to 8 times. Rent in major cities has doubled in the past decade. Groceries are up, gas is up, everything is more expensive. But salaries? They've barely budged. So when someone tells you to keep your needs at 50%, they're either out of touch or they don't understand what it's like to live in 2025. Now, let's talk about the 30% for wants. This is the fun money. Dining out, entertainment, hobbies, travel. And again, in theory, it sounds great. But in practice, most people don't have 30% left over after covering their needs. And even if they do, life happens. Your car breaks down. You need new clothes for work. Your laptop dies. Suddenly, that 30% is gone. Not on luxuries, on things you actually needed. So the line between needs and wants gets blurry, and the rule falls apart. And then there's the 20% for savings. This is the goal, right? Save 20% of your income, and you'll be financially secure. But if you're already spending more than 50% on needs, and you're scraping by on what's left, where is that 20% supposed to come from? For most people, it's just not realistic. And when they can't hit that target, they feel like failures. They think they're bad with money, but they're not. The rule is just broken. So what do you do instead? Here's the framework I recommend, and it's based on real life, not theory. I call it the priority-based budgeting system. Instead of rigid percentages, you focus on priorities, and your priorities shift depending on your income, your location, and your financial goals. Let me break it down. Priority number 1, cover your survival expenses. This is rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, minimum debt payments, the non-negotiables, whatever it takes to keep a roof over your head and food on the table. For some people, this might be 50% of their income. For others, it might be 70%, and that's okay. The goal isn't to hit a specific number, it's to know your number, write it down, track it. Because once you know what survival costs, you can start optimizing. Priority number 2, build a small emergency fund. Before you start investing, Before you start paying off extra debt, before you start spending on wants, you need a cushion, even if it's just $500 or $1,000. This is your safety net, because without it, one unexpected expense will derail everything. And here's the thing. You don't need to save 20% to build this. You can start with 5%, even 2%. The key is consistency. Set up an automatic transfer every payday, even if it's $20. Over time, it adds up. And once you have that cushion, everything else gets easier. Priority number 3, pay off high-interest debt. If you're carrying credit card debt, personal loans, or anything with an interest rate above 7%, this needs to be your focus, because that debt is costing you money every single month. And until you eliminate it, you're fighting an uphill battle. Now, I'm not saying you need to pay it all off before you do anything else, but make it a priority. Pay more than the minimum. Attack the highest interest rate first. And once it's gone, you'll have so much more breathing room. Priority number 4, increase your income. And I know, this sounds like generic advice, but hear me out. If your survival expenses are eating up 70 or 80% of your income, you can't budget your way out of that. You need to earn more. And that doesn't mean working a second job forever. It means finding ways to increase your earning potential. Maybe it's asking for a raise. Maybe it's switching jobs. Maybe it's starting a side hustle. Maybe it's learning a new skill that makes you more valuable. The point is, budgeting only works if you have money to budget. And if you don't, your first priority is to create more. Priority number 5, optimize your wants. Notice, I didn't say eliminate. I said optimize. Because life isn't about deprivation, it's about intentionality. So instead of cutting out everything you enjoy, figure out what actually matters to you. Maybe you love eating out, but you don't care about streaming services. So you cancel Netflix and keep the dinners. Maybe you love travel, but you don't care about a new car, so you drive an older model and take more trips. The key is to spend on what brings you joy and cut out what doesn't. And when you do that, you'll find that you can enjoy life without blowing your budget. And now, here's the strategy I mentioned earlier, the one that makes budgeting almost automatic. It's called the reverse budget. Instead of tracking every dollar and trying to fit everything into categories, you flip it. You decide how much you want to save or invest each month, and you pay yourself first. The rest? That's what you have to spend. Let me explain how this works. Let's say you make $4,000 a month after taxes, and you decide you want to save $500. On payday, $500 automatically gets transferred to a savings or investment account. You never see it. You never touch it. It's gone. Now you have $3,500 left, and that's your spending money for everything. Rent, food, wants, whatever. You don't have to track it. You don't have to categorize it. You just know that as long as you stay within that $3,500, you're on track. This system works because it removes the mental load. You're not constantly worrying about whether you're overspending in one category or another. You're not feeling guilty every time you buy coffee. You've already saved what you need to save. Everything else is fair game. And over time, you can increase that automatic transfer. Start with 5%, then go to 10, then 15. And before you know it, you're hitting those savings goals without even thinking about it. Quick heads up. This video is part of a bigger series I'm building called Stop Being Broke, Fix Your Cash Flow. It's a complete roadmap to help you clean up your finances, rebuild your savings, and create a system that actually works. The link to the full playlist is down in the description and pinned comment, so save it and subscribe. New episodes will be added there in order. Trust me, if you're serious about fixing your money situation, you'll want to watch the whole series. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What if you can't save anything? What if, after covering your survival expenses, there's nothing left? First, know that you're not alone. Millions of people are in the same boat. And second, understand that this is a symptom of a bigger problem. Either your expenses are too high or your income is too low, and you need to address one or both. Start by auditing your expenses. Write down every single thing you spend money on for a month. Everything. Then look for patterns. Are you spending more on subscriptions than you realized? Are you paying for a gym you don't use? Are you buying lunch every day when you could meal prep? Small leaks sink ships, and sometimes those small cuts add up to $100 or $200 a month. But if your expenses are already lean, then it comes back to income. And I know, easier said than done. But here's the truth. You can't save your way to wealth if you're not earning enough to live. So you have to find a way to increase your income, even if it's just an extra $200 a month. That could be the difference between staying stuck and finally building momentum. All right, let's bring this all together. The 50-30-20 rule is broken, not because it's a bad idea, but because it's not realistic for most people in today's economy. Instead of rigid percentages, focus on priorities. Cover your survival expenses. Build a small emergency fund. Pay off high-interest debt. Increase your income. And optimize your wants. And if you want to make it even easier, use the reverse budget. Pay yourself first and spend what's left. It's simple, it's flexible, and it actually works. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, track your spending. Not to judge yourself, not to feel guilty, just to see where your money is actually going. And then, based on what you find, build a system that fits your life. Not someone else's rule, your system. Because that's the only way it's going to stick. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more insights like this. We break down real financial strategies for real people. Not theory, not fluff, just actionable advice that works.